Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Butera Eve. I'm a nuclear engineer. Uh, I'm the division manager working at Rwanda Atomic Energy Board in charge of nuclear power production development. Today, we are gathered here to share the vision and significance of this summit and to answer questions from the media about the nuclear energy, especially SMR and microreactors, the way they can play a transformative role in addressing energy poverty and support industrialization, but also enable a clean, inclusive, and resilient energy future for the continent. We are honored to be joined by distinguished leaders who have championed this summit and are helping position Africa as pioneers and adopters of innovative energy solutions. Please join me in welcoming Honorable Minister Dr. Jimmy Gasore, Minister of Infrastructure for Rwanda, who will give some remarks. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning again, everyone. I wanted to thank you for responding to our call for this press briefing. We wanted to let you know that Rwanda will host the Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit next week, Monday and Tuesday, June 30 and July 1st. So we wanted to brief you about the conference, the objectives, and it's really an opportunity for you to ask questions. We know we're already hearing some jargons like SMR. I'm not sure everyone here knows what SMR is, so I have to tell you about this. Briefly, the reason for this conference is to get together as African leaders, global partners in the nuclear energy arena, the researchers, vendors, and technologists to all align and discuss how we can develop this field of nuclear energy for Africa. When you look at the development of Africa and Rwanda in particular, we know that we are having a very fast-paced growth across the continent. We know that we need more energy than we can provide only using conventional energy sources. We are also in the world where we have to be mindful of climate and climate change. And most of energy sources that are reliable are not climate friendly. That I meant coal or fossil-based energy sources. So nuclear energy is one of the most reliable, safe, and clean energy sources. So we are here to really discuss about the conference. But in the conference, we also look at how we can work together as African to join forces. This is a highly regulated sector, the nuclear energy. There are a number of regulatory hurdles one has to go through to achieve the first nuclear generation, nuclear power. There is also, this is a highly technological sensitive environment. We have to work together to support each other technologically. Some African countries have already operating nuclear energy sources. And as I hope Dr. Zerbo will mention, we are only focusing on a specific type of nuclear energy sources. That's called the small and the modular reactors. That's the SMR jargon that was mentioned. I think I get the opportunity to speak on it more with the colleague here. SMR we see it as very appropriate to Africa. When you look at its size, usually they are small as 10 megawatt and as big as 300 megawatt. Those are very small compared to typical conventional nuclear power plants, which are above 1,000 megawatts. When you look at our grid, for example, it will be very difficult to accommodate 1,000 megawatt in our grids without another investment. But with SMR, they can seamlessly be integrated. We look at also at the requirement in terms of area, right? For example, they don't require a lot of water like other nuclear power plants, and they can be deployed as mini grid or remote areas. So this is really a chance for us to discuss and to answer your questions and to align for the coming conference. So I believe I have a chance to speak again. So thank you for now.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for the remarks, your leadership and vision. Now it is my pleasure to welcome a global figure in science diplomacy and nuclear innovation, Dr. Lassina Zerbo, who is the chairman of Rwanda Atomic Energy Board. Sir, you're welcome for the remarks.
Thank you, Yves, and good morning to all. It's for me. Let me start by saying that it's an honor and a pleasure to chair the Rwanda Atomic Energy Board. Following on the vision that His Excellency President Kagame set forth when he decided to opt for nuclear energy, and mainly to make that first choice for the small modular reactors, for reason that the Honorable Minister just mentioned. The level of development of our infrastructure, the grid, where we stand, compared to attempting to host the conventional or traditional nuclear power plant. So, for me, this is an opportunity for Rwanda and for Africa. For Rwanda, because we want Rwanda to be a blueprint for what we could do as on implementing the small modular reactor technology, because those are not new technology, but are technology that have evolved a lot with a lot of innovation in terms of fuel that allow us to be more confident in the safety and security that goes with the regulation that was just mentioned. And that's why Rwanda has made that choice. And then we want to make sure that we one of the first country to implement a small modular reactor. We're adding to that also the opportunity for the micro reactor that are much smaller, but also getting a little bit bigger, because we're talking about 1 megawatt in the beginning of their deployment or development. But now I think they go up to 45 megawatt now. They're getting close to the beginning of the small modular reactor, and then that's a good thing. So one topic that we will try to address here, it's not only the vision for Africa, which goes together with Rwanda's vision for nuclear energy, but we also want to see how we can tap into Africa as a whole, its ambition with regard to human capacity. That's important. I think it's important to mention where Rwanda started by training people and then building capacity and having a critical mass that can accompany the implementation and deployment of the nuclear energy program. But we talk about opportunity for Africa, but we do have challenges as well. Well, how do we finance those big projects? And that's a topic that we will tackle as well during this summit, to look for financing partners and then find innovative way of financing nuclear energy implementation. And then you've recently heard about the World Bank changing its stand with regard to financing nuclear energy projects. That wasn't the case in the past. It means that the world is changing, but the world is changing because energy poverty or energy security is facing a lot of challenges, not only in the continent, but also around the world with the different geopolitical situation that the world is facing. So financing is becoming a big issue, but financing will not be an issue if our multilateral development bank like IMF and World Bank are getting involved into considering. One of the issues that I think that could be an innovative way of financing is like tokenization. Tokenization is a concept that started in United Arab Emirates. Like, for instance, if Rwanda is to certify his reserve in uranium and then make it bankable for people to consider on the basis of that certification to give a value at a particular point in time, and then coming to contribute into financing some infrastructure project that will accompany the implementation of our nuclear energy program. So we're also thinking about regional integration. So how do we get other African countries, so that we speak as a united voice of Africa in that nuclear energy implementation that we want for the continent, because it's the must for our industrialization and our development. And people often talk about nuclear energy as a risk. It's true. In the past, with the traditional power plant, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about accident in Fukushima, in Chernobyl. But I just want to share with you guys one quick anecdote. I had a deputy director general of one of the UN institutions that was giving a talk in Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso to students when they asked him the question about the risk for nuclear power plant. And then he said, do you know that in the African continent, we have 50,000 snake bites that are fatal per year? So he asked the question, can you tell me if you've ever heard that nuclear energy is killing 50,000 per year? Of course not. So the point that he was making is that the risk is not at the level where we're putting it, because we talk about death for some issues, but the death related to nuclear accident is quite minimal. We talk more about it when we have Fukushima. We talk more about it when we have Chernobyl, but those issues are taken good care of with the small modular reactor because they're safer, secure, and then we can deal with the non-proliferation issue as well in a much better way. I think that's what I wanted to share with you as an introductory remark, and then say that you are part of those who should help us to have the political commitment and the civil society as well to embark in this journey. Because a nuclear energy project is not for, we don't start a project only for 5 years. It's a project where you engage for 50, even 100 years, depending on the volume of nuclear power plant that you want to put in your country. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Zerbo, for the powerful remarks. At this point, we're going to open the floor to questions from the media, but I wanted to ask you to, when you ask your question, please keep it brief, so that we have many questions to ask to our panelists. I wanted to introduce our panel for today. As you can see, we have the Honorable Minister, Dr. Jimmy Gasore, the Minister for Infrastructure. And then we have Dr. Zerbo, Chairman of Rwanda Atomic Energy Board. But also we have the CEO for Rwanda Atomic Energy Board. So it's a good opportunity to answer the question you might have.
I have two questions here on this summit and on the small modular reactors you talked about. Speaking on the summit, why is this a nuclear energy innovation summit for Africa is now such a critical and timely for our continent right now, and what makes it different from other energy conferences we've seen? So the second question. How are there's a small reactor, modular reactors you were talking about, different from this technology used in nuclear weapons? And someone may want to know if these small reactors can explode like other nuclear weapons or nuclear bombs we normally see. And this is the third one. If you like, for our biggest audience, is Kinyarwanda speaking audience. Minister, you can briefly explain to us about this summit. Thank you.
First of all, what makes this conference different from other nuclear energy or other conferences related to energy? We talk about small modular reactors. I don't think we've ever had a conference dealing specifically with what we see as an innovation in terms of security and safety of nuclear energy implementation. And then the conference is also unique because, as I mentioned, when you take the choice that was made by His Excellency President Kagame to go straight for the small modular reactor rather than embarking into the conventional and traditional one, it fits with his understanding of the fact that our grid level is not suitable as it stands for the conventional one. And then the decision to go faster due to the demography, the evolution, and the energy need of Rwanda to start with, and the energy need of the continent. And also, it's unique because we're proving that we have a seat at the table. Because when we talk about nuclear energy, the conferences are often outside the continent. And then people talk about something that would basically be, I would say, absorbed by us as African. But what we want to show now, we have a seat at the table. We can make a decision for ourselves, an understanding of ourselves, because we have the human capacity to accompany the implementation of that project. And we're bringing experts from around the world to share experience, because those who have already implemented those type of technology or who are developing it, so that young people from Africa can follow suit and then build the capital necessary to do what is just needed for our industrialization and development. And that's what the small modular reactor and the micro modular reactor will help us do for Rwanda and then for the continent.
So I'll ask the CEO maybe to address the misconception about nuclear weapons and SMR.
Thank you. There is always that misconception when we talk about nuclear energy. People tend to understand nuclear weapons, and those are different. So what we are talking about here is the use of nuclear energy for power generation. We want to produce electricity from nuclear energy. And it's totally different from military programs. And our country, as even many countries in Africa, have signed the different treaties prohibiting the proliferation of nuclear weapons. And even we are part of the Perindaba Treaty that want the Africa continent to be free from a free zone from nuclear weapons. So we are not doing nuclear weapons. We are just looking for energy solutions to address the problem of energy poverty in Africa. As you know, more than 600 million Africans don't have access to electricity. But also we have ambitious development agendas that will require a reliable and stable source of energy for their implementation. And that's what we are looking at. If I may continue and just supplement what Chairman Dr. Zedbo has just said, what makes different this summit is that we are at the same time addressing solutions to the energy poverty in Africa, but also we are promoting solutions that will contribute to the energy transition in Africa from fuel fossil to clean energy sources. And it's rare that you have energy summits that address both of these issues. So I think that's what I can say right now.
Thank you. I think I need to answer in Kinyarwanda, and also, I don't think really we explain the difference between weapon and the energy. We only inform that we're not doing a weapon, but the key difference lies on enrichment. So we have a uranium, and how much it's concentrated will either lead to energy or will lead to weapon. When it's less than 20%, that cannot be used as a weapon. It can only be used as energy. And when you are a country which just wants energy, you don't go into enrichment business. You import the 20% as a fuel, you put it in your power plant, and you generate energy. It will expire within a few years, maybe 5 or 6. Then you re-export. We don't even keep the waste in our countries. They take back their waste and you import again another fuel. So that's really the business of energy. And with that, you don't have the capacity, even the capacity to make weapon. For making weapon, you have to get raw uranium, you enrich, you concentrate it up to 90%. That's a different business. You know, some countries which were trying and they had issues recently. So that's a different business and very complicated. And it's very clear when you try to do that business of enrichment, everyone will know you don't want energy, you want something else. So it's very easy to regulate and very easy to see what your intentions are, depending on what you're trying to do. So for the difference between SMR and that's the difference between energy and the weapon. It's about enrichment business versus importing fuel and re-exporting the waste. Now SMR and NPP is a nuclear power plants. There is the size, they are very small. There is the technology. Usually SMR will be made in factory, then brought to field. While the nuclear power plant as normal are very big things that are built, very expensive, and even the safety profile is different. The SMR are so-called passive safety, passive cooled. It means when you lose power, they will shoot themselves down without any issue. But for the nuclear power plant, they need electricity to cool them down. So when they lose power, they will explode, like what happened for the two incidents. So the safety profile for the smaller one is also better than the bigger nuclear power plant. So I will briefly speak in Kinyarwanda. Nk'uko rero twabibabwiye, twaje hano kugira ngo tubamenyeshe inama tuzagira mu cyumweru gitaha, inama yo ku rwego rwo hejuru ihuza inzego zitandukanye muri Afurika, abaminisitiri bashinzwe energy, abayobozi ba guverinoma, abayobozi b'ibigo mpuzamahanga bireberera urwego rw'ingufu za nucleaire, ndetse n'inganda zikora ibijyanye n'ingufu za nucleaire, cyane cyane izo turi gushyiraho imbaraga ni inganda ntoya zitwa SMR, inganda ntoya zishobora gukorerwa mu ruganda zikazanwa mu gihugu, ni inganda zifite umutekano wisumbuyeho urenze ubusanzwe inganda zisanzwe zikoresha, kandi zinajyanye n'ubushobozi bw'ibihugu byacu muri Afurika, ubushobozi bujyanye n'imiyoboro y'amashanyarazi dukoresha. Muri rusange imiyoboro y'amashanyarazi hano muri Afurika ntabwo iratera imbere cyane, ku buryo ibihugu byinshi bitaba biniteguye kwakira inganda z'amashanyarazi nini. Inganda z'amashanyarazi nini ni ukuvuga ngo zifite megawati zirenga 1000, mu gihe intoya tuvuga ziba ziri hagati y'100 cyangwa se munsi. Ikindi ni inganda izo turi gushyiraho imbaraga za SMR, ni inganda zidasaba ubutaka bunini kubera ko nyine bari ntoya, ndetse zidashobora no kugira impanuka, kubera ko iyo zigeze impanuka zigira impanuka zizima aho kugira ngo zigire impanuka zishya, kuko iyo zihiye zitera imirasire ishobora kumara igihe kirekire yangiza ubuzima ndetse n'abantu. Iyi nama rero izahuza abaminisitiri bashinzwe ingufu muri Afurika n'abo bayobozi bondi twavuze n'abashakashatsi, turebera hamwe uburyo twahuza imbaraga mu bijyanye no kubahiriza amategeko n'ibindi bisabwa kugira ngo umuntu agire imbaraga za nucleaire, mu bijyanye no guhanahana ubumenyi, cyane cyane ko hari ibihugu muri Afurika bisanzwe bifite imbaraga za nucleaire, ndetse no kuba twanahuriza hamwe. Muzi ko muri Afurika hariho imishinga myinshi yo guhuriza hamwe imiyoboro yacu y'umuriro. Iyo dufite imiyoboro ihuye rero nabyo byongera ishoramari, kubera ko umuntu uje gushora imari mu gihugu kimwe aba abizi ko afite isoko ryagutse rirenga imbibi z'igihugu. Ibyo byose tuzabiganiraho avuga ko dufatana urunana tujya muri iki cyerekezo gishya cyo kugira ngo ibihugu bya Afurika tubone imbaraga zihagije zo gufasha mu iterambere twese twifuza kugeraho, haba ku gihugu cy'u Rwanda ndetse no ku bindi bihugu. Murakoze.
Murakoze Honorable Minister. Bafata ikindi kibazo.
Murakoze cyane. Nitwa Jean Désiré Igizeneza, ndi umunyamakuru wa igihe.com. Nashaka kubaza ibibazo bishingira n'ubundi ku kubyaza ingufu za nucleaire. Amakuru agaragaza ko twagiranye ubufatanye n'ibigo bitandukanye kuva mu 2020. Habanje Abarusiya, hakurikiraho ikigo cyitwa Dual Fluid Energy Inc. na Nanonuclear Energy Inc. Nashakaga kubaza ko harimo mu bufatanye harimo ko wenda twakora nka za reactors zifasha mu gutanga ayo mashanyarazi, ese iyo mishinga kugeza uyu munsi igeze hehe, ku buryo wenda umunyarwanda yakumva ati wenda mu mwaka umwe cyangwa ibiri twaba dutangiye kubona uruganda cyangwa imirimo bigatangira kubakwa. Icya kabiri mfite, kuko nyine ari nka process, twari dufite amakuru ko hari abanyarwanda bagera kuri 200 bajya kwiga mu makaminuza akomeye mu mahanga kugira ngo baze bazane ubwo bumenyi mu gihugu. Ese baragiye cyangwa gahunda igeze hehe? Uruganda rwa nucleaire nk'uko bigaragara bisaba kugira ngo rushyirwe ahantu hari kure y'abaturage. Mu minsi yashize ntabwo hari hagatangazwa, mwavugaga ko bikiri mu nyigo kugira ngo wenda aho uruganda rwazashyirwa. Ese hamaze kuboneka, ni haba ari hehe, inyigo igeze hehe kugira ngo dutangire iyo mirimo? Ikibazo cya nyuma nshaka kubaza, kubera iki u Rwanda ari rwo rwabaye wa mbere mu gutegura iyi nama, ikindi se ni izihe strategy ziri imbere kugira ngo tuzashyire mu bikorwa ibyavuyemo? Murakoze.
Murakoze, abajije ibibazo byinshi ariko reka ngerageze kubisubiza uko yabibajije. Icya mbere cyari kijyanye n'amasezerano atandukanye u Rwanda rwagiye rugirana n'ibigo bitandukanye bikora ikoranabuhanga rikoreshwa mu nganda zibyara amashanyarazi zikoresha energy nucleaire. Twahereye kuko yabivuze, twahereye ku Burusiya mu mwaka w'ibihumbi 2018 nibwo hasinywe amasezerano y'ubufatanye kugira ngo turebe ukuntu twakoresha izi ngufu z'amashanyarazi za nucleaire mu kubyara amashanyarazi. Iyo abantu basinya amasezerano, ni ukuvuga ngo baguye umuryango kugira ngo batangire baganire, barebe ukuntu iyo mishinga minini izashyirwa mu bikorwa. Ibiganiro rero byatangiye icyo gihe, dusinya n'andi masezerano atandukanye, harimo n'amasezerano yo kwigisha abantu bashobora gukora muri izo nganda, nayo yasinywe nyuma yaho gatoya, ndetse tugera n'aho dukora inyigo z'imbanzirizamushinga kugira ngo turebe uko byakorwa mu Rwanda. Hano izo nazo zirakorwa, ku buryo ubu ngubu nibura dufite icyerekezo aho tuvuga tuti dukeneye uruganda rwaduha amashanyarazi angana gutya, dushobora kurushyira aha n'aha n'aha. Aho rwashyirwa haraba hari amasite menshi cyane mu mbanzirizamushinga, bisaba kugira ngo hongere hakorwe izindi nyigo zisumbuyeho zireba iby'ubutaka, zireba ibyerekeye seismicity, kugira ngo tumenye neza yuko aho hantu koko hujuje ibisabwa byose, ku buryo hagiye uruganda rubyara ingufu z'amashanyarazi zikoresha ingufu za nucleaire nta yindi mpanuka yindi yatera. Nk'uko minisitiri yabivuze, ikoranabuhanga turimo kureba ni ikoranabuhanga rito rijya ku butaka butoya, nka hegitari 15 kugera kuri 50. Aho rero niyo twavuga ngo mu Rwanda turatuwe cyane, ntabwo twabura hegitari 50 ko twakubaka urwo ruganda. Yavuze n'andi masezerano twagiye tugirana n'ibindi bigo nka Dual Fluid na Nano ndetse n'ibindi bizaza. Nk'uko byavuzwe, izi tekinoloji twise ngo ni SMR tudutoye, ni tekinoloji nshya zirimo gutekerezwaho, inyinshi rwose nta nubwo ziragera ku isoko. U Rwanda rero kuko twabonye ko arizo zikwiriye mu bihe tugezemo, zadufasha mu gukemura ikibazo cy'ingufu dufite, aho kugira ngo dutegereze yuko izo tekinoloji zizaba zitekerezwaho zigakorwa dutegereje ko zizagera ku isoko, twahisemo gutangira kugirana amasezerano n'ibigo birimo kuzitegura kuzikoramo, kugira ngo dufatanye muri urwo rugendo, noneho nizigera ku isoko tuzabe dufite n'abantu bazizi ndetse natwe tuzabe dufite n'ubumenyi bwo kuba twazikoresha neza, yewe ndetse tuzafatanye no kuba twazicuruza ahandi zikenewe aho ngaho. Ni muri urwo rwego twagiranye amasezerano na Dual Fluid kugira ngo tuzafatanye turebe ko tekinoloji yabo bafite yazagera aho ijya ku isoko. Ni no muri urwo rwego twagiranye amasezerano na Nano Nuclear, nabo bafite ubundi buryo bwa tekinoloji bashaka kuzashyira ku isoko. So ibyo ni ibintu tubona ko ari byiza cyane kuko biduha urwinyagamburiro rwo gushyira abantu bacu muri izo company igihe zirimo gutekereza tekinoloji, bagakurikirana neza birimo gukorwa hose, ku buryo izo tekinoloji zabo zizagera ku isoko natwe dufite aba expert b'Abanyarwanda bazi neza ikibazo cyazo, bazi n'uburyo zishobora gukoreshwa neza nta mbogamizi zitanze. Ndumva ikibazo cya mbere ari icyo navugaho. Icya kabiri yavuze ni ku banyeshuri. Nibyo koko tugitangira muri 2017 ndetse byagaragaraga ko mu gihugu nta bantu dufite bahagije bafite ubumenyi kuri ibi bintu bya nuclear energy. Nibwo hagize navuze ko twihutiye kugira amasezerano ya mbere twagiranye n'Uburusiya mu bintu bijyanye no kwigisha abantu iri koranabuhanga. So ubu ngubu usibye nk'aba hari abo twohereje guhera icyo gihe basoje bari hano dukoresha mu kigo cya Rwanda Atomic Energy Board, bagera nko kuri 30, hagati ya 30 na 50. So hari abariyo bagera kuri 200 bari mu bice bitandukanye, hari abazasoza umwaka utaha, abandi mu myaka 2. Turacyakomeza no kohereza abandi kuko n'uyu mwaka tuzohereza abageze kuri 40. Twagiranye n'amasezerano n'ikindi gihugu cya Hungary nacyo ameze gutyo yo kwigisha abanyeshuri, naho tugiye gutangira kohereza abanyeshuri umwaka utaha. Turimo kurashaka kuyagirana n'igihugu cy'Ubushinwa ndetse na South Korea. So turashaka rero uburyo bwihuse bwo kuba twabona umubare ukwiye wo kuba twaba dufite abantu bashobora kuba bakoresha neza iryo koranabuhanga rigatanga amashanyarazi nta kibazo. Inyigo zigaragaza yuko mwene izo nganda ntoya zitanga amashanyarazi turimo kuvugaho zikenera hagati y'abantu 220, 250. Abo 220, 250 ntago ari ukuvuga ngo baba bari ku ruganda icyarimwe, ariko kubera ko uruganda rukora amasaha 28 iminsi 7 mu cyumweru umwaka wose, abantu bakora mu byiciro. Ubu tuba dufite ibyiciro 4 by'abantu bajyamo aho ngaho. Abo 270 ingahe rero ugabanyije na 4 ubona nibura abantu baba bari ku ruganda igihe cyarimo aho ngaho. So ibyo birakomeza kandi tuzanabikomeza. Dufite na gahunda ndetse yo gutangira kwigisha ibyo bintu hano muri za kaminuza zacu zo mu Rwanda. Kaminuza y'u Rwanda yarabitangiye, hari porogaramu imaze kwemezwa, bazatangira gufatamo abanyeshuri ndumva mu mwaka uzatangira uri imbere. Ndetse turimo turashaka no kuzanamo Rwanda Polytechnic kugira ngo nabo barebe uburyo badufasha gutegura abantu bashobora gukora muri iryo koranabuhanga, kuko iri koranabuhanga iyo rije usibye kubyaza amashanyarazi akenerwa mu nganda zitandukanye, ariko habaho n'izindi nganda ziza ziyashingiyeho zikenera abantu bafite izo skills zihambaye. Aho ruzashyirwa nabivuzeho. Ubu ngubu ntabwo twakwirwa dukora speculation ngo naha kuko inyigo zitararangira neza, ariko uko navuze aho uruganda rujya rwa hegitari 50 mu Rwanda kuhabona ntabwo bigoye cyane. Hanyuma ikibazo cya nyuma cyari kubera iki u Rwanda rwabaye urwa mbere mu gutegura iyi nama. Babivuzeho, ariko ndagira ngo mvuge yuko u Rwanda nicyo gihugu cyonyine igihe iri koranabuhanga ryatangira gutangazwa, abantu benshi bavuga bati iri koranabuhanga rishya ntiturarimenya, se riteye gute, bakifata. Twebwe twabonye ko ari ryo koranabuhanga ryonyine rishobora gukemura ikibazo cyacu, noneho dukora decision yuko tugiye gukoresha iryo koranabuhanga kugira ngo dukore amashanyarazi. So iyo decision kuba twaratangiye kare byatumye natwe n'abantu bacu dukurikirana iby'iryo koranabuhanga. Hanyuma kuri ubu ngubu nibaza ko mu bihugu byinshi bya Afurika dushobora kuba dufite abantu bakurikirana cyane iby'iryo koranabuhanga uko rihagaze ndetse rizini na kampani zirimo kubikoramo kurusha ahandi hose, kuko twebwe twaribonye nk'aho ari wo muti w'ikibazo cyacu dufite ndetse dushobora kuzagera mu minsi iri imbere cy'umuriro w'amashanyarazi. Ndumva ari icyo navuga.
nongeraho gato wenda nubwo tuvuga ko ari rishya ikoranabuhanga rya SMR, ariko twanavuga ko nk'Uburusiya barazifite zigiye zikora, Ubushinwa burazifite, nubwo abandi bakiri mu bushakashatsi ariko hari abamaze kuzigeraho ku buryo tutavuga ngo turi mu bintu biri experimental still. Murakoze.
Murakoze, Minister. A little bit of translation to bring on board the chairman. The discussions were about the cooperation that are being established to promote and implement the nuclear power program. Maybe if you have a say about the cooperation that have been established in the country.
Yeah, I did pick up that part, nano and dual fluid, and then I gathered that this was about cooperation. Indeed, yes, we have a memorandum of understanding with Nano for the micro reactors, and that was mainly, as you know, most of those technology is still at the experimental stage. And then when I mentioned blueprint, we wanted the first of kind in the continent to be set forth in Rwanda. And that's why we have this type of agreement with them to give the opportunity and the ground and also the human capacity for them to see Rwanda as the place to start implementing those projects on the continent. And then we have that with Nano, including also dual fluid. But at the same time, because the energy demand is quite high, we're expecting our demand to fit a diversification of partners around the world. And that's why we have a partnership with Rosatom. And then we're looking as well to diversify and have other companies coming. I think the CEO mentioned the Korean and the Chinese, because most of those countries are developing different technologies. For instance, we've been talking uranium, but I think we have thorium. That is a technology that the Chinese have experimented in the desert there in China to show that we would not need as much water for cooling. And then the Honorable Minister mentioned the passive cooling, and that's also the trademark of some of the innovation in the small modular reactor technology to increase the safety and security of the implementation of the nuclear energy program that we're trying to bring in the country and then be a blueprint for the continent.
So for the interest of time, I'll ask, you'll be the next one to ask, but I'll ask you to be brief, straight to the point, so that 1 minute or 30 seconds so that we have time. We only have 15 minutes. We want to cover many people. Thank you.
Thank you. Edwin Nashimwe, I'm with the New Times. So you mentioned about the blueprint, and I really want us to, I would love to ask this in a rather theoretical way. For being it critical that Africa remains one of the continents that faces energy poverty, how do we see nuclear energy coming into the picture, specifically with SMRs? And just to maybe also circle around the CEO. So 2 years ago, you initiated a feasibility study of a Center for the Nuclear Science and Technology, which would then pave the way for the plant based on SMR. What do the studies show, if you want to maybe touch on that as well? Thank you.
Yes, I mentioned blueprint because you see an implementation of a nuclear power plant requires a vision, requires courage, and I think in the continent, one can say that Rwanda can be proud to lead this type of conversation when you have both the vision, the courage, and then the discipline. You need all those three to be able to implement properly a nuclear power program due to the risk that we've mentioned just now. And then also to the human capacity that has been built in Rwanda for the past 5 years. I think one should consider and be proud of the fact that this country has consistently been training engineers in nuclear science and technology diligently for the past 5 years, sending them abroad to learn. it has been the government policy to do that. If you see many other countries, it's I know or I heard of nuclear energy, and then I want to study nuclear energy. But we don't have a policy across Africa into bringing human capacity within the youth so that they can help us implement what has been or what we can consider to be new for the continent. So blueprint for that first aspect that I mentioned. Also blueprint because we have breakthrough in those technology of SMRs and microreactors that many countries have not embarked in because most of the vendors have been trying to deploy the conventional, traditional, as we call it, nuclear power plant. If you take a country like Ghana, Ghana has been talking about nuclear energy since the Nkrumah days. That's the late 50s. Okay? But Ghana still doesn't have a nuclear power plant because traditionally we're talking about a conventional plant. Uganda next door, they've opted, Kenya, they've opted to go for the big one, as mentioned by the Honorable Minister, over 1 gigawatt. Okay? Rwanda has made a choice to go for the SMRs because being conscious about the level of the development of our grid, of the human capacity accompanying its implementation, I think it was the right choice. And that right choice in itself is a blueprint. And we have to help implement this fully so that SMR technology and MMR technology are seen as something that is doable in the continent, starting with the decision that Rwanda has made. And that's why I was referring to the word blueprint or whatever you can use as a pilot project. Thank you. Yeah, the energy poverty issue, I think energy poverty, the poverty is not a word that I like that much, and I'll tell you why. Because, in one discussion, somebody was telling me it's about 60 years that World Bank is trying to fight poverty, and then we haven't managed. So I would say it's the same way that I don't buy the word capacity development. Capacity building. I say capacity development because there is capacity already that we have to develop. It's the same. There is a framework, energy poverty or energy security or energy sovereignty, as we talk about it this day, goes along with what we've been doing right now, the demography, the economy, and then how we need to leapfrog with regard to our energy needs to accompany the industrialization and the development need for the country and then for the continent. So we have solar, we have all form of energy. We're not seeing nuclear energy as replacing them. We're seeing nuclear energy as coming to top up the need and the deficiency that is seen by the intermittent nature of renewable energy like solar. We have solar if we have to complement with nuclear and then nuclear energy taking a big chunk of our energy need. I think we will not only deal with the climate change issue, but we'll also deal with energy sovereignty, energy security, and then the development and industrialization that goes with it.
Yeah, that's true. About 3 years back, we commissioned a feasibility study for a research reactor project. So I want to point out that nuclear energy is not only used to produce electricity. There are other what we call non-energy applications of nuclear energy. So many, plenty of them in nuclear medicine, in agriculture, when you have food irradiators, and in mining, when you have treatment of some minerals. So there are many non-energy applications of nuclear energy that actually play a big role in boosting the socioeconomic development of a country. And we were not only working on a project to produce electricity, we also have another project to promote the use of those non-power applications in different sectors of our country. So that's the study we commissioned. We have even the site where we think we can put that center. It's different from the energy project we are talking about now. And that won't be the topic of the summit, the incoming summit. But in another setup, maybe we can dwell more on that project that we are also working on. So for the power project, we commissioned what we call a pre-feasibility study, just to see how is our grid, how is our topography, how is the seismicity, whether we can continue to think on implementing a nuclear power plant project in this country. And the result from that pre-feasibility study are promising, and that's why we are continuing to work on the project.
I wanted to touch on the energy poverty, even if Dr. Verbo doesn't like the word, to show that SMR are really appropriate for us, our context, because they are easy to deploy. For example, the nanotechnology that we signed SMR with, you can only deploy one container to a mining site. It really can be off-grid. The container size generator can support the mining. You can bring it to industrial zone or rural and remote areas. So it's easy to deploy, easy flexible. Then it's also less capital intensive. When you speak of nuclear energy power plant, the big one, you are speaking of 10 of billion of USD, which is very, very expensive for our economies, most of us African. But the lower cost one are easy, flexible. So as long as we are on top of the technology, it will help us, that flexibility, that modularity will help us eradicate the energy poverty in Rwanda and in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have
Thank you. Théodore de Queiroz, I'm a journalist for TV5 Monde and also Challenge Magazine. Maybe you answered in Kinyarwanda and I didn't get it. If it's the case, we can talk later. Where will be deployed this SMR? How many do you plan to acquire? And also in terms of cooperation, you spoke about it. I think you spoke about it in Kinyarwanda, but who will provide the SMR technology and infrastructure? Basically. And also, when do you plan to acquire this SMR?
Let me slightly go back to what the CEO said about the SMRs and then the other science and technology use of nuclear energy. It's true that cancer therapy, radiotherapy is using also nuclear technology. And I wanted, when I mentioned Ghana, I want to clarify one thing. It's true that Ghana doesn't have a nuclear power plant, but Ghana does have a research reactor for agriculture. And then that has been used since the late 60s or 70s, and then it was revamped, and then it's in use right now in Ghana. And then that's also helped Ghana to lead the process of agricultural innovation, development, food conservation, and then you name it through this nuclear science and technology. With regard to our aim, our goal in Rwanda, I mean, potentially what we wanted is to by 2030 that we have an SMR. That's why the CEO mentioned the feasibility study, the pre-feasibility study. We have a site that is available to that effect, but that site can be used by several vendors. And then what we're trying to do right now is to see who among the vendors that we have can help us deploy this in time and within a budget that is suitable for the country, and then the financing mean for it. And that's basically what we're doing. We have agreement with Nano, with Dual Fluid, with Rosatom, but we're welcoming any other partnership that could help us speed up the process of implementing our nuclear energy program. You mentioned you're from TV5. Nous avons aussi essayé d'amener les Français on board. On a parlé à des compagnies françaises depuis. Nous sommes en contact avec Étienne Giros, qui est le président du CIAN, le Conseil des investisseurs français en Afrique. La France a pendant longtemps, je veux dire, été à la tête de ce qui est énergie nucléaire, mais je crois que maintenant elle est en train, pour des raisons ou certaines, de se faire un peu dépasser, sur le continent en tout cas, en termes de développement technologique et puis de partenariat aussi. Mais nous sommes ouverts à tout partenariat sur cet aspect. Oui, on a des sites. Le CEO a parlé des sites qui sont déjà identifiés et où on peut déployer ces SMR. Donc, c'est les accords qu'on a avec les différents vendeurs sont dans cette dynamique pour essayer de les amener sur ces sites. Mais pour revenir à une de vos questions aussi, la demande énergétique du Rwanda est assez grande et va être assez grande à partir des années 2030. Et donc, quand vous parlez de plus d'un 1,5 gigawatt, ce n'est pas un seul vendeur qui va pouvoir donner ça au Rwanda. Les SMR, l'honorable ministre a parlé de 300 mégas maximum. Bon, si on a besoin d'1,5 par exemple en 2030 ou 2035, vous pensez bien qu'il faut amener d'autres pour nous aider à faire la pointe sur cette question. Et donc, au fur et à mesure et en fonction de technologies, les sites peuvent varier. Mais actuellement, on a déjà des sites qui sont mis en place pour les SMR et ceux pour lesquels nous avons des accords. Voilà.
Can we take one more question? Last one from this side.
Sorry, my name is Sabiti. Most of my questions have been touched, and I really want to thank the panel for doing that. But to just be more specific, if you can answer one question about what are some of the concrete outcomes or expectations from the NEISA 2025, especially regarding investment, pilot projects, and regulatory partnerships. I mean, the chairman, as the chairman has already talked about it, and even the honorable minister and even the CEO, but just in a packaged way so that we can have the full picture. Yeah, thank you.
So one thing that I said is that we, as an outcome of this Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit for Africa for this year, we want to start speaking as a united voice in how to strategize, not only in Rwanda, but within the continent, the use of small modular reactor technology as the means. I would say, I will allow myself to say the right mean at this point of development of our grid in the continent to deploy and implement the nuclear energy program. If we can get that united voice, I think we would have achieved a lot. In terms of partnership, indeed, what we try to do through this NEISA, by bringing experts from around the world, it's also exchanging knowledge, allowing human capacity to learn more about the recent breakthrough in small modular reactor technology and how that could be fitting the need of not only Rwanda, but other African countries. As a third point, we intend to have this Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit for Africa rolling. So we have it in Rwanda this year. We might have it again in Rwanda next year, but our intention is to have it going as Nuclear Energy Summit in other countries so that will help us say do what we just said, speaking as a united voice for the continent in that respect.
Murakoze, nitwa Nkotanyi Alan Gashiramanga, ndi umunyamakuru kuri BTN na B+. Nyakubahwa Minister, twagira ngo mudusobanurire, twagiye twumva inganda bazicomplaininga ziratangira business bagashinga inganda, ariko ikibazo ugasanga bavutseho ikibazo cy'umuriro ku rwego rwaho kibateza igihombo, umuriro ukajya uzawubura. Ibyo twagiye tubikora inkuru zitandukanye, tukabona n'inyubako z'ubucuruzi zigenda zishya. Bamwe bati ni ikibazo cy'insinga, abandi bati ni ikibazo uburyo zestaye, abandi bati ni ikibazo cy'umuriro, type y'umuriro bakoresha. Tugenda tubona ibyo bibazo bigiye bitandukanye. Ese ubu ngubu noneho iri koranabuhanga igiye kuzana igisubizo muri ibyo bibazo bibiri, kugira ngo abanyarwanda, abashoramari bavuge bati uko byagenda kose none mu myaka iri imbere u Rwanda ruzaba rutekanye ku kijyanye n'umuriro w'amashanyarazi bakoresha. Ikindi wenda mwabimentioninga, ariko mwatubwira nk'umubare iri koranabuhanga mu bihugu bya Afurika ribikoresha, ko mwatubwiye yuko ku mugabane wa Afurika ari ibihugu batangiye kuyikoresha. Murakoze.
utujyanye hanze y'ikiganiro mo gato, mu by'ukuri ibibazo by'abakomplaininga ko umuriro udahagije ntabwo ari mu byanya by'inganda, ni ahantu hari imiturire hiteye imbere vuba, ariko hari inganda ntoya, abasudira, abasya utuwunga. Ibyo ni ibibazo dukemura, ntabwo ari ibibazo binini bikeneye iyindi mishinga. Ni ibibazo by'amatransfoma, amasinga maremare, navuga ngo ntabwo biza mu scope cyane. Ibyo turi kuganira ni iterambere ry'igihugu rivuga ngo inganda zizaza zizabe zifite zisanga umuriro uhagije. Iby'inzu zishya ahenshi ni ikibazo kiba kiri mu nzu imbere, kuko ntabwo hashya quartier yose hashinze imwe. Akenshi ni inzu yari iyo gutura bayihindura akabari, badahinduye amasinga cyangwa se zinashaje, yari inzu imaze imyaka 30 bataravuguruye. Nabyo numva tutahuza n'ibi cyane turimo tuganira. Ibihugu bifite imbaraga za nucleaire, ibyo nzi ni harimo Egypte, harimo Maroc, harimo Afrika y'Epfo, ariko ngira ngo wenda abandi bafasha.
Leta namwunganira ku bihugu byo muri Afurika bikoresha ingufu za nucleaire mu kubyaza ingufu z'amashanyarazi. Kuri ubu ngubu dufite igihugu kimwe gusa, ni South Africa, niyo ifite uruganda rwa nucleaire rubyaza amashanyarazi, barugize kuva na kera. So Egypt nayo irimo kubaka uruganda rwayo, ndumva muri 2028 aribwo bateganya yuko bloke ya mbere izatangira gutanga amashanyarazi. Ibyo nibyo bihugu bibiri navuga ko biri biteye imbere cyane mu kubaka inganda za nucleaire zibyara ingufu z'amashanyarazi. Ariko nk'uko minisitiri yarabivuze, nk'uko nigeze kubikomozaho, ingufu za nucleaire ntago zikoreshwa gusa mu kubona amashanyarazi, hari ahandi zikoreshwa nko mu buvuzi, mu buhinzi n'ahandi hose. Izo rero zikoreshwa mu buvuzi, mu buhinzi n'ahandi hose, hari ibihugu byinshi bya Afurika byazitangiye kera, nk'uko yabivuze, Maroc, Ghana, yewe na Nigeria, ibihugu byinshi cyane na Kenya, ndetse hari ibyifitemo aho ngaho. So niyo mpamvu rero n'izo ngufu zindi zikoreshwa mu buhinzi, kwa muganga, mu kuvura abantu, nazo tuzifite muri gahunda kuzaziteza imbere. Ariko iyi summit turimo kuvugaho yo izibanda cyane ku gukoresha ingufu za nucleaire mu kubyaza amashanyarazi, kuko bigaragara ko Afurika cyane cyane n'u Rwanda ndetse dukeneye ingufu z'amashanyarazi zihagije kugira ngo tugere ku majyambere twifuza.
Ikibazo cya nyuma.
Thank you. I'm Emeline Mbabazi from Radio TV10. My question goes to Dr. Rasina Zerbo. How are youth, women, and African innovators being included in the nuclear energy conversation, and what role do they play in this transition? Thank you.
I'm glad that, as a woman, you're asking this question. We have, during this Nuclear Energy Innovation Summit, we have a slot for women in nuclear energy that will be led by Director General of the World Nuclear Association, Sama Bilbao, and also a young Rwandan. We have Captain Mutoni, who is a nuclear engineer as well, who is leading this prospect with Sama Bilbao from Rwandan perspective. But we have other young women from around the globe or around Africa who are coming to help talk about what women's role is in this nuclear energy business and nuclear energy implementation, and also how we can nurture critical mass of women involved in the human capacity that we're building to that effect. So there is indeed, nuclear energy is not a matter for men, it's for everybody. And then the more women we get, the more it is. And you know well that there's nothing that can be done successfully without the contribution of women.
Thanks, sir. We've come to the end of this press conference, and thank you once again. Thank you for your presence. Thank you, the panel. We look forward to seeing you at the summit. Thank you all.